Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome to 5 tips to keep your reed knife sharp. So, you know, having a sharp reed knife can have a dramatic impact on your ability to make a good reed or to adjust a reed. And some oboe players feel very flummoxed by sharpening the reed, but there is good news. Sharpening the knife. But there is good news. Working with steel is much easier than working with bamboo cane. I hope that today's presentation will help you feel more confident in approaching your knife and keeping it sharp. My name is Erin Brophy. I am the principal oboe player of the Saskatoon Symphony and a sessional lecturer at the University of Saskatchewan. Thank you for joining me today. Why am I doing all these live presentations? Well, I've been asked that by many of my colleagues, and it has a lot to do with my beginning journey on the instrument. I'm not from a large city center. I did not have oboe lessons from a very young age. In fact, I didn't have access to weekly oboe lessons until I was in music school. The reason is because I'm from a very remote part of Canada that was really far away from any other professional oboe players. And so when I got started on the instrument, I really struggled. Surrounded by lakes and trees, so beautiful, no good information. So I didn't have information. I didn't have a functioning instrument. I didn't have functioning reeds, and it was super challenging. And I felt very isolated. And if you fast forward now, I feel very blessed that I make my living playing the oboe, and I help others with their journey now, and I think it doesn't have to be that difficult. It doesn't have to be that lonely. Playing the oboe, can have so much joy in community. So that is why I'm doing these presentations. I hope that this information helps you to enjoy your journey a lot more than I did. So, that's also why I created a program called the Oboe Path. The Oboe Path is a group online program that uses a personalized plan, a personalized laser feedback, and a group masterclass to enable an oboist to play with joy and ease. With the group online masterclass, an oboe player joins a community of like-minded oboists. There is collective wisdom there. There's also accountability and inspiration to practice. With the laser one-on-one feedback, an oboe player knows exactly what they need to do when they go to their practice sessions, so they see the results immediately. And because of the customized, personalized plan, improving on the oboe can fit into a busy life. I just love the Oboe Path program. So let's get to it. 5 tips to keep your reed knife sharp. Now, I'm going to put my oboe down, and I'm going to pick up a knife. And I'm going to talk about, first thing I'm going to talk about is how to check if your knife is sharp. So I have at certain points used the hair on my arm to check to make sure that my knife is sharp. That left me with a large bald patch. And so but I know there are oboe players out there that want their knife to be so sharp that it shaves. I now check, and I'm going to come uncomfortably close. I now check on the my nail, and what I do is I check on the nail to see if my knife is catching. And my knife is currently catching on, and notice that I'm checking all points on the knife. Let me do it from the side. So yeah, I'm checking all points. And there are some points on my knife that are very sharp and some that are dull. And see here how there's a little bit of knife nail dust. Can you see that with the light? See, there we go. Do you see that? Do you see that nail dust? That's just a little bit showing me a little bit of enamel from my nail. And that's showing me where on the knife this is sharp. So if you have one place on your knife that's sharp, great! Keep using that until it becomes dull. And then, then do the next step that I'm about to show you. But ideally, you want to have a fully sharp knife from beginning to end. We don't live in an ideal world, so use whatever sharp part of your knife you have. One of the things that really, one of the things I've come to with experience is that there just comes a time when you need to replace your knives. I am a big recycler and reuser, being a child of the 90s. And so I have a tendency to reuse. And but I have found with knives that if I just purchase a new one, that helps me a lot to have consistent sharpness in my knives. I think that earlier in my reed making journey, I was trying to make a knife last long past when it should. I would regrind, and sometimes you just need a thick enough piece of steel to work with. So that is another thing I would recommend. If you are in a chronic dull knife situation, buy a new one. See if that is the factor that will lead to you getting out of that knife conundrum. So one of the things I use and I wanted to talk about today is a sharpening rod. What I like about this for sharpening is it's portable. I can bring it to rehearsals and to concert stages so that I can adjust if necessary. I like to arrive at a rehearsal or a concert stage with my knives already sharpened. But if I'm working for a long time, I want to make sure I want to make sure that I have always a sharp knife. So I really like this for its portable nature, more so than a sharpening stone. For a sharpening stone, you need a really flat surface. This I can just hold in my hand. The two things that I use right now to sharpen my knife is I use a wicket edge to regrind my knives, and then I maintain my knife sharpness with this sharpening rod. This sharpening rod is a Victorinox. Am I saying that right? Victorinox. Victorinox. Something like that. See that there? What's nice about this is it actually has two gradations. Do you see where one is kind of dull and one is shinier? So one is coarser than the other. So I can really use this to get a nice edge back, and I really like that for that reason. So I use different parts of the rod depending on what I'm looking for. When I am looking to resharpen, I start with the more graded one, and I do my strokes on it, and then I move to the shinier one and do the same. I like repeat it again, this time in a higher key, or this time in a shinier rod. So I wanted to talk about kind of the basic theory that I'm using. And I have these very high-tech drawings. So I wanted to start with what sharpening actually is. So here we go. This is your knife. To see how it's a V, this is your knife. It is dull. This is your dull knife, okay? And when you sharpen, what you're doing is you're going to work on one edge, and it's the opposite edge that you're pushing away from. So if you are right-handed, you are pushing away this way. So we want to draw towards us as we want to draw towards us to create what I call the burr. So this actually lengthens this side of the knife. And that's what you want to do, this is what's nice about working with steel. It's actually when you're working on one side, you're lengthening it, so that this is here is called the burr, and this is the lengthen. And when this is working, my knife is very sharp in the opposite direction that I use it. So I'm bringing it towards me, and it's very sharp. And in the next step. We are going to move the knife in the opposite direction. So I bring it towards me to sharpen, and I push away because I'm right-handed. It is the opposite if you are left-handed. So I'm right-handed. I bring it towards me to create that burr, and then I push it away to move the burr over. So the burr moving over, this is actually right here. This is what is sharp. So again, we're going to go back to this one. So this is lengthening this side. This takes that side that's lengthened and turns it over. And this is actually what makes a sharp knife. I always imagine that curl, and that helps me imagine what the edge is looking like. So I'm going to go over this with the rod. Here is the rod. I'm going to use the graded sort of non-shiny part of this rod, and I'm simply going to draw 3 or 4 times towards me. I'm going to use this motion where I start at this end. So see how I'm starting at this end of the knife, and I'm going to draw towards me like this. I'm not placing the knife like flat. I'm raising it so it's catching the edge of the knife. I'm probably raising it 15 degrees. So I'm going to do that 3 times like this. And then I'm going to check it on my thumb. And what I'm feeling for is that catch. So there's two parts of sharpness. The first is the catch and then the follow through. And I'm really wanting to make sure that the catch is there and the follow through also. What do I mean by the follow through is that once it catches, it actually moves across my enamel. So it is now, what I've done is created that length. Back to my high-tech picture. Now I'm going to take this knife and I'm going to lift it probably about 20 degrees like this, and I'm going to push it away. And this is going to create the burr to the other side. So I'm going to do that 3 times, probably. And then I'm going to check it. So I'm checking it in the opposite direction. It is no longer sharp because I have moved the burr over and it is now sharp. Woohoo! So I'm going to do the same thing now. I'm going to repeat it on the shiny part of the rod, and I'm going to pull that towards me. Woo! And I'm going to check it. It has, again, lengthened this part of the knife. And then I'm going to push the burr over, again, that 20 degrees. And I'm using quite a quick stroke. I'm not really pushing. I'm not wanting to force because I'm putting steel on steel. You don't really have to use a lot of force. I'm allowing the knife to sort of do the work. I'm not really pushing down. And now that is an incredibly sharp knife. Yay me. Woot woo. And what I did was I created this burr. So what that means now is that when I place it on my reed, I have a much higher chance of being precise as to where I am taking cane off. That's actually why we want a sharp knife, is for our precision. I also find that cane that has been kind of squished down because of a dull knife changes a lot. Like the reed changes a good deal because the cells are compressed and then they sit overnight and then they expand when you soak it up. And whereas if you take things off with a sharp knife, they have a much more stable existence. So those are 5 tips to help keep your reed knife sharp. I hope that you find that helpful. I have, one of the things with reed making that's very connected is high notes. Have you noticed? And when you have a great reed, it can feel like it's very easy to play high notes. And yes, there is a lot of the reed that's involved with getting those high notes. But there are other things you can do to your playing that don't involve a reed knife and don't involve changing your reed that will help your approach to high notes. And I have a new ebook. Today is the first day I'm launching it. Woohoo! It's called High Note Mastery. And there is a link below this recording. If you would like access to the ebook, it walks you through, not only does it have fingerings for all of the third octave keynotes, but some of the basic tenets of approaching the high notes so that it doesn't matter what kind of reed you've got, that you feel confident in approaching those high notes. I hope you find it helpful. Let's all become the oboe players that we were meant to be, the oboe players that everyone wants to play with. Play the oboe with joy and ease. I'll see you next time.